What's going on, everybody? Caesar here today, bringing you another video here on the channel. Thank you all for stopping by. So today will be a huge deviation from the normal content that I put out. For most of you guys who have subbed to me, you used to be putting out gaming content related videos or modding gaming content related videos. This video here is going to be a behind the scenes look at how the videos are made, and in particular to discuss the software or program that I use known as Adobe Premiere Pro. If this video does well, I will probably continue to put out more in-depth guides on the software in general and how to use it, and hopefully inspire some of you guys who watch this to perhaps get into editing one day for yourself. So all that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. I do want to also put out here that this video is not meant for the more intermediate or advanced user for any of the Adobe products, or if you're coming from Mac and Final Cut and you're really good with that and you have to switch over to this platform here, then in that case this video will be helpful for you. But if you're not, you know, a new player to the platform, then you might want to find a different video to look at. So this video is meant to be, again, an introduction into Premiere Pro. So now let's get into this. So before we even open up the program or anything like that, the first thing you want to talk about is being organized. So organizational skills are key here. So what I have here for the sake of this video is what I like to call a master folder, and I went ahead and named it a training guide. Again, that's just for this video. You can name it whatever you want to name it. The idea is that if you have a project you're working on, you generally will want all of the footage that you plan to have included in that project to be in one spot. That matters because once you open Premiere Pro and you start importing your footage, importing your media files, your pictures, your voiceover or your vocals or your background music or ambience or whatever it is in the project, you want it all to be in one place. So if you move this folder from your desktop to, let's say, a external hard drive, it all moves at the same time. So let's go ahead and get into it. Inside this folder here, I have a couple different subfolders. You don't have to mimic my setup. You just let's change this in the background. You should have something similar to this before you even get into opening the program. So in this case here, I have a video folder, and this video folder, of course, has 3 random videos in it. If you were sent video footage from someone and you were given an editing job, or you are your own videographer and editor, of course, you would have this sorted like this right here as well. You would have a video folder and all your video related footage in this folder here. We're going to skip over loop, BGM, or background music. That's a folder that I made, which is going to be used in the post-production process of this video. It's just there. You can ignore that. The GPX should be your graphics folder. It might be GFX to be technical about it, but I just put it as GPX. I know what it is. That's going to house any of your lower thirds, and if your After Effects like projects, any sort of dynamic pictures you're going to use or anything like that to kind of add to the visual composition of your project. So next up we have extra stuff. This will be also referred to as miscellaneous. So anything extra that is not necessarily a graphic. It might be a README document, or it might be a Word document to the order of the program or a play, or a list of songs that should go in a certain order, a text document, something like that, that you're going to use to kind of guide yourself through a project or perhaps even the script. And then of course here, I have BGM, which is my background music. And that music, of course, will be used to go inside the project when I start importing audio and video and stacking this stuff together. So it's all very organized before I even open the program up. And I'll show you why that matters once we get inside the program. So we got this master folder here. I have it called training guide. I have everything sorted out in here the way I want it to look when I get into Premiere Pro. Quick note, this folder does not have to sit on your desktop. I just have it here again for the sake of this video. It can sit on any hard drive on your computer. So in my case, I have a total of 7 hard drives, and 6 of them are potential storage locations for my folder to sit on. I don't recommend having it on your main C drive for performance reasons when you start to render projects out and pull in and import stuff inside Premiere Pro. So you can have it sit on any drive you want on your computer. Again, I don't recommend having it sit on your same boot drive for your OS on your computer. If you can't avoid that, then okay. But if you can't avoid it, have that folder sit somewhere else on your computer. Let's go ahead and open Premiere Pro. Of course, you will need the Adobe Creative Cloud installed in your computer. And you don't have to have all the applications downloaded and installed. You just have to have access to, of course, Premiere Pro. Whether you get the single license subscription or you get the entire creative suite, it does not matter. The program's going to run the same. And of course, I feel like I have to say this, the program is a subscription-based program. So take that how you will. I'm going to go ahead and open it, and then we'll see what we are greeted with. Now, for you, if you're just now installing the program and you're opening it up, your panels may be a little bit different. You might have a welcome screen of sorts. You can hit OK or cancel on that just so you have a similar layout how mine is here. So up on the upper left-hand side of the window, you're going to have two buttons, New Project and Open Project. We're only concerned with New Project because we're starting from scratch. And you're going to be greeted with this window here, which is fine. And the first thing we're going to talk about is pathing or save location. So by default right now, in my case, it could be different for you. Adobe is looking to save a project file in my in my OBS video converts folder here. I don't want that. Again, I made that folder on my desktop to keep everything stored in there. So we're going to go ahead and navigate. We're going to hit browse and we're going to go back to desktop and just tap on desktop. And in this case here, I wanted to go in training guide. I'll select that folder and then I'll hit select folder. So now I've told Premiere Pro to save my project file to the folder on my desktop inside the training guide folder, which is the folder we made before we open the program up. And I want the project file to be named, in this case here, demo project. It is recommended you have, of course, your project file named, of course, what you're working on. So if it was movie 1 or act 1 or whatever you want to call it, you know, short skit outside, you know, scene 1, whatever, to help you stay organized. It doesn't really matter as long as you know what it is. If you leave it untitled and you have a bunch of untitles and you start opening stuff up and getting more advanced, you're going to get confused and that's going to give you a headache. So we're going to just go ahead and do demo project PRJ, I believe it is. And we're going to hit OK. In a moment, we're going to ignore everything else here on the screen. We're not going to click on any of this here. Excuse me, and mess with any of this stuff here. We're going to ignore it. Simply hit OK. It's going to open up in a moment and you will be given a blank panel. So what did we just do? We're going to minimize this, go back here, and now we have a project file. This project file we just made is the master file, and it tracks all the progress for everything we've done inside Premiere Pro. It tracks everything we've imported. It tracks all the edits. It tracks all the music. Any and everything that we do is tracked and saved here. I want to make this very clear. If you delete this right here, let's say you have 1 hour of footage you worked on or 10 hours. If you come in here and delete this, you are done. You lose everything. All your progress is 100% gone, and you're going to be feeling really bad about it because you got to start from scratch. I've done it before, not on a massive project, but I have done it. So I'm speaking from experience. Do not move or delete or alter this project file right here. This is your master file. So that's that. We're going to go ahead and go back into Premiere Pro. And now we have these empty spaces here. So the goal here is now that once we're inside Premiere Pro, I don't want to actually show you, at least in this video, how to edit, because the video will end up being an hour to an hour and a half long. The goal here is to show you just simply how to get footage into Premiere Pro and what the panels can do and how they should be set up. In the next video, we'll go a little more in depth with a little bit of a faster pace on how to get things into our timeline and how to manipulate it to create a better project that we could potentially render out to a customer or a viewing audience. So here we are. Of course, everything is blank. And before we start importing, we're going to discuss panels. So we see we have a project panel right here. People may refer to them as tabs, but if you're being technical, they're called panels. So we have our effects panel, we have our effects control panel, and we have a source panel, a program panel, and then we have this empty space down here. It's known as a sequence or a timeline. Either way you refer to it works, it's okay. So also appear at the very top in this little bar or banner We have a couple different panels. We have a learning, assembly, color, and so on and so on. For now, we're going to just stay under the editing panel or a tab, but again, it's technically called a panel. So we're going to stay under the editing panel. And I recommend that when you first get into this, your setup somewhat mirrors mine, so you will be able to have a clean and comprehensive workspace. So we're going to click on our project panel, and it's empty and it says import media to start. So of course, we want to pull our footage in that we organize on our desktop. So there are a couple ways to do this. And what I'll try to do is that I would try to have the keyboard shortcuts that I'm calling out on the screen as well. So you will be able to hear me and see what I'm saying on the screen, so it might stick a little bit better. So import media to start. A couple ways to do this. You can double click in the empty space right here, anywhere, it doesn't matter. Just double click on your mouse, or on the keyboard, you can hit Control I. If you are on a Mac, you can hit Command I as well. It's also worth noting that periodically you might hear me say mouse 1, mouse 2. That's just the gamer in me. Mouse 1 is your left click and mouse 2 is your right click. So if you are a gamer and you do hear me say mouse 1 or mouse 2, then that's what that is referring to. The mouse 1 being the left click of the mouse, and then mouse 2 being the right click of the mouse. But they all work the same, just different terminology in case you guys do hear it. So we're going to go ahead and double click. In this case here, it opens up our import window. Now we want to go ahead and navigate back to that video folder that we created. So we're going to go inside our training folder. And of course, if we go in here, your first instinct might tell you to open this video folder up and, you know, select them and bring them all in. Again, the goal here is to stay as organized as possible. And I'll show you what will happen if you lasso over, or on the keyboard, if you hit Control A, it will select all. Control A is select all for you guys. And if you hit open, excuse me, if you hit Control A and you simply hit open, it's going to import all the videos into Premiere Pro, which is fine. Of course, we go back to our desktop really quickly. We created a bin or a folder with everything in there already. So we don't want to just be counterproductive and create a folder in there. And when we import into Premiere Pro, it's just sitting there. It's fine if you have 1 or 2 videos, but as you get more advanced in this, you're going to have, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 cameras, you know, 5, 6, 7 audio tracks, graphics, lower thirds, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a mess keeping up with it. So we're going to fix that issue right there. On a keyboard, we can simply hit Control Z, which is our undo button, or you can go to edit, I believe, and hit the undo button right here as well. I prefer the keyboard shortcut, so I'm going to hit Control Z. Control Z simply takes you back 1 step, or it undoes your last action inside this program here. So everything is gone. So we're going to hit Control I to import. And now again, we're back here in the same window. And the point I'm making is that we have this folder right here. It says video. We know everything inside this folder is our video files. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that video project or the video folder is highlighted. And instead of hitting open, we're going to hit import folder. Now, once this is done, you will see the folder will appear in here. And just so you know, Premiere Pro does not call folders inside of Premiere Pro. It calls them bins. So if you right click, it'll say new bin, and it pops up that way as well. So to get rid of that, I'm going to just simply hit Control Z. It's gone. So I imported my video folder. And if I hit this drop down arrow, everything is inside that folder. So the same video I was looking at on my desktop is now here and is already sorted for me. I can, of course, repeat that same option with my with my audio as well. Control I on the keyboard. I'm going to go back 1 page. I'm going to make sure that my BGM or background music is highlighted and selected. I'm not going to open the folder. I'm going to just say import folder, and Premiere Pro will import, of course, that folder as well, and everything is sorted out for me. This is much easier to navigate than having, you know, 7 files here just kind of laying all over the place. Now, you could have also imported them without them being sorted and create your own file by right clicking and hitting new bin, and you could have made a bin in here. But this way here just saves a little bit of time and keeps you organized as you get started. So we have our footage inside of Premiere Pro. Now, what do? We want to look at the footage before we even attempt to plan on how we want to edit it. Perhaps you want to rename some files or things like that, or kind of preview what's going on to make sure you imported the right stuff. We're going to hit our drop down arrow right here. And of course, if you double click on anything, it's going to pop up here. This space is still empty down here, and that's fine. We're going to get to getting the space populated with our media files here in a second. So up here, as we double clicked on our media file, our video file, the source window populated the video here. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar with the world of broadcasting, if you watch your local news broadcasts on your TV, you're looking at the live window that your local news station is sending out to you. Premiere Pro refers to that window as the program window, and your source window is known as a preview window. So let's say, for example, your talking heads are talking about, a store being closed for whatever reason, and then the next segment transitions into the weather guy. The weather guy is standing by on camera, and he is in their preview window, and the live window is talking about your talking heads with the store being closed. So how does that matter here? This is the preview window to see what's coming up next, and your program window is live. Now, as you can see here, the program window is empty. So that means that in this case here, if this was a live production, my viewing audience would see nothing. So how do we fix that? We're going to create a sequence in our timeline. All right. Now, the way that works is that you have a couple options. You can go to, I believe it's file and new, and then sequence and all that kind of stuff, and kind of follow on from there. It gets really irritating if you don't know exactly what you're doing. I personally don't like that route because that's just more things I have to worry about in terms of settings. So we're going to show you this super short and simple way to create a new timeline to where you can begin to edit your footage, and of course have it be populated in the program window here. All you have to do is right click on any piece of footage in here. This always works. Right click, and you're going to just scroll down, and you're going to click on one thing. You're only worried about new sequence from clip. Click that one time, and your footage now goes down here into your timeline. So now we have a preview window and we have a live window. And to just give you a better example of how that will work, again, here's a newscaster sort of reference or news program reference here. This would be what's coming up next in the source window, the preview window, and the program window is what's currently live. Now notice how as I click through this changes, and then we still have what's coming up next. We still have what's coming up next here in our source window, just so you know how those work. So source is preview again, and the program window is what's live. The live window shows you what your viewing audience will see once this once this video file is rendered out. So we have imported footage in here. The next thing I want to cover is really critical. A lot of people get into editing, whether it be on a very beginner level or they, near professional levels, and they don't understand time code. I've been on the set with some guys and they don't understand time code, or the time code is wrong. The camera set up wrong, and the time code is say you recorded 99 hours of footage, and it's like, why is this like this? It can lead to other issues. So we're going to start from the ground up and learn how to read time code. So the way time code works, and if you look right here where I'm pointing it, you have, all right, we have some numbers here on the screen, and notice on the right side we have a gray set of numbers as well. I get to what that means in a second. The blue numbers represent where you are currently in time. All right, and then a quick deviation here. This little blue playhead is called a CTI, or current time indicator. So as I click through my video footage here, notice how that blue number right here changes. All right, and that blue number is known as the time code. So a time code is read from left to right. It is hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. In the world of video, we deal with frames as well. Usually, if you say, how long is that video, you just say, 2 minutes and, 15 seconds. On YouTube, you don't really count the frames, but in the world of video production, the frames do matter as well. So again, that's from left to right: hours, minutes, frames, and seconds. Now, this time code represents a virtual address for a specific point in time for your video file. So we've all had mail delivered to our house or apartment before, or a place of business. And the way this works is, of course, your physical address is tied to the building, and there's a building next to you. So let's just say, for example, that you're at work, and your work address is, we'll say, 2200 Evergreen. And let's say that there is a Dunkin' Donuts next to you, and Dunkin' Donuts address is 2300 Evergreen. So if you were having mail delivered to you and Dunkin' Donuts is having mail delivered to them for whatever reason, the mail carrier knows exactly where to go every single time to get that mail to that address. The same concept applies here. So if there was a certain scene I wanted my editor to see and I sent them this video, I wouldn't tell them to click, click right here in the video, click right here, and you'll see words on the screen. You will see a health bar. I would just say, take this time code and go right here. So if I want to go to the time code, we'll say 7 minutes and 50 seconds. I click on it and I'll say 7, delete that out of there, and 50. And so every single time my editor or any editor goes to 7 minutes and 50 seconds, they'll get this exact same image on the screen, the exact same virtual address every single time in the video, no matter what. Now, the only exception to this is that if you cut the video and reduce the timing of the video, then in that case, of course, it's not going to be the same spot. But as far as this video file is concerned right here, this is the 7 minute and 50 second mark. If I wanted to jump to 2 minutes and 50 seconds, I just click on it and then just scroll over and hit 2 minutes, and it's always going to jump this exact same spot in the video. So that's how the time code works. It gives you a virtual address to an exact spot in the video every single time, as long as you don't trim the video down and then change it in that way right there. You end up in the exact same spot. So we've talked about how the time code works over here in real time. Of course, again, it's hours, minutes, frames, seconds, and it changes as we put our playhead or CTI anywhere in the video. If you look over here on the right, we have a grayed out sort of time code over here. Notice how I can't click on it and change it. It's just there. What this represents is the total duration of the video file itself, or the total duration of the project length of my timeline. So, excuse me. Right now, it's saying that we have 14 minutes and 35 seconds of footage in the timeline. So this was a project you had worked on for a couple of days. And, let's say that, it was a wedding or whatever. And the wife was to say to you, how long is the video right now? You wouldn't simply say, let me go play it and see. You would just look over here on the right and say, oh, your video project is 14 minutes, 35 seconds. And that's how that works. So of course, if you were to trim it down and you were to grab the edges and go backwards, now you have 9 minutes and 34 seconds of footage. And of course, if you make a mistake, that keyboard shortcut, Control Z, undoes it. So the gray time again shows you how much time you have in the total timeline of how much footage you have in your total timeline. And the blue time shows you where you are currently at on your timeline. All right. So we got time code covered. We already went over how to import footage. That's keyboard shortcut Command or Control I. Again, I want to reiterate that Control Z is your undo or a backstep button. And then again, I want to try to have this on the screen. Control A is your select all. Control C is copy, and then Control V is paste. So we have footage in our timeline, and a couple things I'm going to note real quick. And people ask me this all the time, is the visuals of the timeline. I don't know why Premiere Pro does this, but it's always kind of like smashed together down here. It's kind of hard to see what's going on. If you take your mouse and put it on the next, or put it next to the little eyeball right here, and you on the keyboard, if you hold the Alt key and if you roll your mouse wheel up, you can expand this video track right here. The same can be done for each independent audio track. Again, take your mouse and put it on the track, not on the track, and put it over here on the side next to the little toggling options, and hold Alt on the keyboard, and you can do mouse wheel up or down. It will expand each individual track. Now, alternatively, what you can do is on the side over here, if you don't like that approach, you can grab these handles here where I'm pointing it, and you can just drag them up or down. And as you can see, it's expanding all of the channels. I don't like that approach because I just don't. I prefer to do it individually over each channel that I need to be expanded. And of course, the same can be done to the audio tracks as well. You can expand each channel so you can see it a little bit better. And the reason for that is if you were starting to get into real precise stuff, if you were like tracking audio and you wanted to zoom in and see what was going on, then you would expand the channel, so you can get a better idea of where your sound waves are at, where your peaks and valleys are at right here. And a quick lesson in audio, these little spikes, as people call them, the sound, it's technically called a sound wave, but if you get really, really technical, the ups and downs of them are called, the high point is called a peak, and then the low part where the sun dips is called a valley. So that's that for how you look at that right there. It doesn't impact your ability to edit. It's just something to know, just so you have it in the back of your mind. So we're going to go ahead and zoom back out. And of course, again, you take this bar down here and you can use it to stretch or expand your project window, your timeline window as well. Before we get into more keyboard shortcuts, I also want to point out that if this window is still not large enough for you down here after you've expanded it, there's a key you can hit on the keyboard that will make it go full screen. So on your keyboard, right under the escape key, right next to number 1, you have this key. It's like a little floating quotation mark or a little floating asterisk, or however you want to call it. It's referred to by some as your grave key, or some will call it the tilde key. I don't know which one is which or why people use it interchangeably, but it's still the key under your escape key next to number 1, grave or tilde. And the way it works is that if you simply highlight the panel you want to expand, in this case here, our timeline is selected and highlighted, I'm going to just hit the grave key and it's going to expand that window full screen there. Now I have even more of the canvas to view what's going on right here. Of course, I can't see my preview and live windows here, but that's how this works right here. And I can do that with any window. I just click on the window I want to expand, as you see, as a blue box around it. And I can simply go grave again, and it makes it go almost full screen. And I can do the same thing for over here. Just click on it and hit the grave key, and I can get this window full screen as well. So that's how that works there. Now, what we're going to cover is switching our pointer tool into a edit tool to start making changes to the footage. We won't get into, again, how or why we're making changes. We're going to just show you how these tools work to get them to be active in the program to be used on the timeline. So over here on the left side, you have a bunch of different icons. For the most part, you're going to be using 2 of them until you get a little more comfortable with the program. You're going to be using 2 of them. Of course, as you see here, this little blue mouse head pointer is already active. It's already highlighted. It's already blue. If you hover over it, it is called a selection tool. And as you see, if you look where my mouse is at right now, it is saying selection tool, or V as in Victor. So when that's active, of course, I can click and drag anything in here and put it where I want to put it, move it around. And if I want to cut or split the video, I only need to hit 1 key, and that is C as in Charlie on the keyboard. And if you're not comfortable with the keyboard shortcut, you can come over here and hit the razor tool. It's technically called a razor tool, and C on the keyboard, but I just call it the blade tool. You hit C and notice how your pointer changes to a little razor, and it has a little line through it because right now you cannot cut nothing. There's nothing for it to cut through. The second you put it on the video, it's showing you it will now become active, and you can cut the video on your timeline, or essentially split it. And if you don't want to use the blade tool, you can just simply hit V on the keyboard. It goes back to your selection tool. If you don't want to use the keyboard shortcut, you can come over here and hit V or hit the little arrow. But to me, that wastes time, doing this and then coming back over here and doing this, then moving it over, and then coming back here and then doing this. That's, a little more time consuming. So I would like to recommend, using the A and the no, I'm sorry, not A, using the C and V keyboard shortcuts to switch between your pointer and your cut tool. All right, and as you see here, my footage has been cut. When I was demonstrating, again, let's say I made a mistake and cut this footage. If I just simply hold Control and hit Z, it undoes my last action. It puts everything back to where it was beforehand. So a good example of that being useful, again, I'm going to hit Control A. I'm going to hit delete. Let's say it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm super sleepy. I make a mistake. Boom. My whole timeline is wiped out. I'm panicking. I'm pulling my hair out. Don't freak out. Simply hit Control and Z, and then you're all set. And my dog is crying. I have to see what's going on. I'll be back in one moment. All right, I am back. Excuse that interruption there. I had to check on my dog who acts like a baby sometimes, but we'll continue with the video. So before we head out, quick recap of what we covered here, and I'll try to again have these things on the screen for you guys. We covered importing video inside of Premiere Pro. We covered how to keep it organized by having these folders over here being imported versus just importing the files. A few keyboard shortcuts you want to keep in mind, again, are Control I for import, Control A for select all, Control S to save, Control C to copy, and then of course Control V to paste. And then the one keyboard shortcut that will save you a lifetime of headache and pain and sorrow is Control Z. That is again your undo key to backstep or backspace your last action committed in the program. So the next time coming here, we're going to be talking about using more keyboard shortcuts. Of course, I already talked about the blade tool and the selection tool. That's V and C on the keyboard. Those, of course, allow you to move things around in the timeline and, of course, to cut your video files on the timeline. And we're going to be talking about how to manipulate audio over video independently. And what that means is just basically being able to separate audio from the video and move it about. Once we get that done, we will be discussing how to now, of course, bind or link up the imported audio to the video to make it a little more interesting and go from there. And then we'll get into how to use our different audio tools in our effects and effects control panel to control how our audio sounds, and of course to make different video effects on the video as well. And of course we will cover transitions. So a little more in depth, we're going to go into the software. I just want to go ahead and give you guys the foundation or the basics of how to get it inside of Premiere Pro, so you won't be again overwhelmed with a long lengthy video, an hour and a half long of everything, and then expect you to retain it. So that's about it for the video for today. Thank you guys for watching, and before you head out, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one.